And there it is. We are back at it. Welcome, my people, my friends. Welcome to Ride Along with Ron Man, episode 38 with your host, Ron Man. That is me, Justin. We will begin this run by turning this way. Fake out. You always have that initial question, don't you? Do we turn left or do we turn right? We determined the fundamentals of the run by those first couple of turns. And lately, I feel like I've been turning to the left mostly. This time, I want to turn some other way. Yes. Again, as always, this is a surprise run. It is also a maybe run. The condition of my digestive tract is sound enough that I don't feel prohibited from doing this run. By the way, let's begin running. Oh yeah. So good. All right. Oh goodness, there it is. That's a dry burp. Have not eaten today. Feeling it. But I will when I get back. It's going to be eggs on toast. Lots of butter and salt and pepper. You know, maybe. Maybe not. I have a pretty sweet chili on deck as well that I could mix into the fray there. Well, we'll see. But as always, as almost always anyway, a surprise run. I wasn't sure what I was going to do today, minus work. I knew I was going to do that. And the time sequences were like, yeah, we could do it earlier, or we could do it later. I keep choosing later. Things are looking good. Numbers are coming in the way they need to be mostly. Yesterday was a bit slow. About a third slower than I was hoping it would be. But, then again, it's a fluctuating market. Consider, summer just broached. Everybody just graduated. The kids are out and about. Everybody is barbecuing because summer's really kicking in. It's also this particular year, which has been this particular year. So people are flocking into the streets. I felt an energy yesterday. Remember yesterday on episode 37 when I got run over almost like 5 times? People were, and this continued to be the case as I started my delivery shift, people were antsy, and I had this sense there was a monkey scratch quality to the way that people were behaving. A lot of people wandering, and a lot of people were out and about, which was great to see. And it was also all kinds of people came out. A lot of folks came out who looked like they were doing well. And then a lot of folks were out and about who looked like they weren't doing so well. Not that I know, not that I can appraise from my distance, which I kept as much as possible. Of course, being out on delivery did put me in a position of proximity for some people. But here's something that differentiates the delivery shift from my previous mode of employment. Am I really taking this right? Okay. Didn't expect that either. The difference is proximity saturation over time. I'm not within 10 feet of hundreds of people a day. It's more like dozens, if that. And that order of magnitude is a significant difference. It suits my palate. It suits me far more. So that exposure is a little bit more easy to handle. So yeah, there's all this energy flying around. That's what it was. It was very circusy. And circuses always do have that dark side, don't they? The grease stains in the back of the tent that you don't know where they came from. And if you're a child and you're just fisting down the peanuts and watching the show, your eyes are caught in wonder. They're caught up in the show. And the adults are a little wary, and depending on the age of the kid, you gotta hang on a little bit because the crowds get thick, and there's always a little unspoken danger. and a little spoken danger and intrigue and adventure in circuses and sideshows, traveling acts and caravans. I know that I live in a time where we're kind of phasing these things out a bit, at least the way that they manifested in the old world. I seem to remember that Walt Disney made Disneyland because he wanted to build a place that had all the qualities of these shows and displays and circuses and things, festivals, exotic festivals and stuff. He wanted to build something like that, but without the upfront craziness of the underbelly of such operations. Piracy and black markets and smuggling and trafficking and things. Poaching and the dark side of gambling and people nursing addictions and things. Of course, he had his view on things, and I'm not available in my education to commentate on that man's state of mind. I would argue that he made something more of a monster than what he was trying to avoid. But he also... It is something to have a collective zeitgeist. It is fun to grow up with stories with other people and not just in isolation. I know a lot of the same stories that you know. That's pretty cool. It took something to make that happen. Yes, there's a fragility about centralizing our narratives, but there's still such a diversity of different narratives in the different media and the different traditions that I don't know how fragile our story-making apparatus is. If everything were to get reduced to rubble right now, but all the humans survived, I think we'd come back I think we might be able to pull that off. You know, depending on the size of things, the scale of destruction and stuff. I don't know, though. It seems more fragile to me to have all these societies and communities not talking or not exchanging information, or it only happens in the worst possible circumstances, like war and stuff. Which, yeah, you get that today, but I've been tiptoeing around Dan Carlin recently. He talks a lot about people making war on other people in different parts of history. He's got this fascinating series out right now called Supernova in the East, which is ongoing. He's making these 3 to 6 hour chunks of history having to do with what happened in Asia, Japan and stuff, China, all kinds of places during the times of, I think the time that he's talking about is World War II mostly. Of course, it's, you know, he probably does a lot of preempting and stuff too, but how far back can you introduce a thing like on a global scale like that? The seeds of these conflicts are planted in the roots of humanity, like way deep down, way down the trunk of the tree. Like these are people trying to learn how to get along. Well, we talk about shared stories. It's one of the oldest stories out there, right? As soon as there were enough people in the world to make a go for it, that became an issue. And now, you and I are here participating in the story. Only we're not animated or singing songs necessarily. And all the magic that's around us, it is magic, but a part of the narrative is an acceptable inflation of mundanity that comes with constant immersion in our cultures. Boy, I am talking a whole bunch of nonsense, aren't I? I'm not really keeping a thread. I'm not making an effort to keep a thread going. Instead of that, I'm just kind of flowing. I wanted to flow today. Everything's busy at home right now. There's a lot of moving happening. A lot of shuffling and talk. I didn't expect to feel the need to get out of the house so acutely, but I did. So I did. Now that I'm here with y'all in open space, available to move in any direction at once, some directions more easy than others, that's a ravine. Well, we find ourselves in this position, don't we? Here's what I can tell you. You know, you get these time sequences when you are setting yourself up for the feeling, for the ping. Hey, puppy. Hey, puppo. Hey, buddy. I made a friend. Have a good one, guys. Hey, bye, pup. Yeah. So I was setting my situation up. I was setting my internal dialogue up. I was trying to ask the good questions, like where's the juice today? Where's the awesome power today? Where's the good stuff? What can I do to set it up where that's my stomping ground for the day? We have these times when we kind of work at setting that space up. And then in that space we can play. So I was setting it up this morning, and the last thing that I did was I switched over my YouTube stuff. I was watching some other historical piece. I was watching a bit on what was that? North Korea's like weird dead hotel that was concrete, that was covered in glass, and it's still empty inside, I guess. But no one really knows necessarily. Ooh, scary stuff. And other history stuff, like the kid who built a nuclear reactor in his backyard. And those subjects were fun, just for the entertainment value and for the world is such a big place and so much happens. This is powerful. And that was great. But it was also, the programming was particularly dry and unempathetic. And so much of that attitude runs pervasively through our world. It's like there's this current. It's the current of mundanity. It's like, it's this current of like, everywhere on the internet and everywhere in public, you find people having these either mundane conversations of, hi, how are you? I'm okay, my Starbucks is a little lukewarm. Oh, you took your dog to the groomer, that's great. Isn't he cool? Yeah, he's a rescue. Because everybody's dog is a rescue. He's not trained. He bit the mailman. Now I'm thinking about putting him down and getting another one. Oh, I got the new car. I got the yacht. Instead of putting 36 candles on Uncle's birthday cake, we just drew 36 in frosting and traced the shape of 3 and 6 in candles, lit them, and he blew that out. What a cool, groovy take. Nothing wrong with any of that. I'm just saying, like, where's the childlike wonder and also the love? Where's the love? Maybe those were bad examples because we were talking about family and dogs and stuff. I went to the hardware store and I got this to fix that thing on my property. It's like I've stopped being quite as curious. Thank you. When I'm passing garages and see them open, it's like I used to be so curious. Oh, what human lives are transpiring here? But now I'm looking around, it's always the same stuff. So, at least that's what I see. And I'm noticing. I'm taking a step back and I'm noticing the ranty quality of what I'm haphazardly spewing at this point. Maybe I should just cut and run, huh? I mean, I had a point. Recapturing the wonder was my aim this morning. I wasn't finding it where I was looking on YouTube, so I pivoted and switched. I thought of a fellow who's been helping me out recently. His name is Aubrey Marcus, and occasionally I think in his voice. He has a good voice, a good like book reading voice, and occasionally while I'm doing the Wim Hof technique, I think encouraging thoughts, and occasionally it slips into his voice, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, if Aubrey were here, he would have my back, wouldn't he? This is kind of his wheelhouse. This is kind of his thing. I guess our thing, because it's my thing too. And Wim's. I'll bet Wim would be fucking quite encouraging as well in this moment, and all this good stuff has been coming to me in these Wim Hof technique practices. So, my thoughts went to Aubrey this morning. I was like, what's he up to? What's going on? So I threw on the podcast. He's got it's just called the Aubrey Marcus podcast. And lo and behold, after I hit the search button, what came up were this week's episodes and some episodes from a few weeks ago and stuff. Come to find, you know how I am with names. I've got they slip through my mind like water through the fingers. But I remember one guy, and when I saw his name come up on the Aubrey Marcus podcast, I was like, oh, and that man's name is Don Miguel Ruiz, the mentor of the ayahuasca shaman, who has become Aubrey's good friend and trainer and assistant on the spiritual path. I like that. I like those guys. So Don Miguel Ruiz and his son Jose, I think that's his son. I don't know, I only made it 5 minutes in. They're talking. And all that I needed to hear was a little bit. Because I was looking for a charge. And there it was. Or rather, there was a mirror reflecting the charge that I had within, but we talked about how tough it is to search oneself recently on the pod. Easier for things to come up. And a moment ago, we talked about setting up the stage. That's one way that I do it. Listening to awesome people be awesome, it does remind me of the childhood wonder. Don Miguel Ruiz said a couple of really interesting things. And I've been thinking about it recently myself. He said that life is a dance. He said that this thing that we're all doing is a dance. It's poetry. Yeah, there's lots of suffering in it too, but it's also the sorcerer's studio where we can weave our magic and make things happen. I like that because what is that statement but an absolute fountain of childlike wonder? Then he said something cool. He said that it was a romance. He said life is a romance, or the realm of human experience that is right now. For most of us, it's a dance. It's a romantic dance between life and death. Born into life and we die. Things come up and things go down. That's the dance. And then he said the actual thing, which was, matter is dead. Matter is death and energy is life. The dance between matter and energy. The dance between life and death. I was like, oh, that's really nice. That's a sweet little gummy. I'm gonna chew on that for a minute. And that supercharged me. So that's how I, again, as always, found myself half stupefied, clamoring, giddy and excited to pull my headset together and get the audio jack, connecting the mic, and then the one to connect the compiled headset, recombined headset to the phone. And now, armed with my rig, urinating, getting ready to get out of the house. It all just kind of did itself. It was a hell of a thing. It's great. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I've never really been on this part of the bridge before. That's nice. I like that. I've been thinking about that statement recently. Well, not that. I guess I've been in a similar vein as that which Don Miguel Ruiz brought up, talking about life and death and matter and energy, because I've been thinking about people. I really like us. But a part of the subtlety, the confounding, astounding, impossible to articulate levels of frustration inducing subtlety of our species and any living thing, really. It's exactly that. It's like you look at somebody not in motion, because this is the age of Instagram and pornography and narcissistic visual self-indulgence, the selfie. These are interesting times. I've spent my fair time among these annals. And a part of the emptiness that always comes up, whether I'm jerking it or whether I'm just having a good time cruising people's profiles, and actually that's something that I almost never do. It's more like whatever shows up in my feed, I just flick my thumb up and it scrolls, you know. The Facebook stories, the Instagram stories, different stuff going on. I don't often do deep dives, but what I do is I try to get a little bit of the opposite of Schadenfreude. It's like, oh yeah, everybody's graduating. Yeah, that's so cool. Look at all these Facebook friends I have who are graduating from college and getting into the next level of college, or people who are coming up and making plans. I learned recently there was a gal who was coming up like right out the gate, like in high school, working at the same time, trying to become a chef. I just saw a thing from she popped into my feed, and I saw, and she posted that she moved into a studio. I've spent a great deal of my bandwidth recently stressing over the fact that the numbers that have to come in to live in my own space with my own restroom, to say nothing of a studio, to say nothing of a home, those numbers don't match up with the numbers that were coming in from the old world. Yeah. And to manufacture those numbers without a great deal of luck, well, my viewpoint is shifting on that rapidly, but for the time being, I'll just say things are becoming rapidly more optimistic. But, you know, as a part of that, I remember thinking, man, that's so amazing. This person who just finished college herself, or like school for chefs, is now chefing around and turning down job opportunities because they're secure enough to have the right employment fall into their laps and to turn down the stuff that's not working, all while living on their own. Not here, but all while living on their own. And I was like, wow, they have already come to the place that is several steps from where I am right now. Hey, we're making our move. We're coiling up to spring. Don't get me wrong. And life is falling into place to let that happen, to assist. But when this, I mean, this gal was, when I first met her, I think she was 15 turning 16. She can't be more than 20 now. God. And she's got it, man. That's so good, but there's also an emptiness because it's social media. Because I'm looking at matter. Okay, fine. She posted letters on a social media site. So yeah, I'm looking at a screen. And a screen is tricky because a screen is a process. It's electricity and stuff, right? I view this material on screens. So it's not quite the same as saying, oh yeah, I found out about this person's goods, bads, and uglies based on carved dead charcoal on slate or papyrus. No, it was a screen, but still. Point holds, matter is dead. And I watched a moment's snapshot in time for this human being. A moment of triumph that is the process of this human being's life coming to this very moment. But the snapshot was a dead snapshot. And it was a highly two-dimensional one because for every word that happened, just like we were talking about with flow funnel stuff a couple of days ago, and various other material earlier. Sorry, I had to kind of dodge that car. Gotta forgive me here. And does she see? Yes, she does. Thank you. And yes, that's what it was. Mid-resolution. Things that are written down, things that are attended to consciously. Really good at navigating through the world at mid-resolution. Things of middle size, neither too big nor too small, can be dealt with in the conscious space optimally, with a healthy smattering of the low and high res emotional stuff. To say nothing of the spiritual aspect of things that is always there. What I'm saying is this. That girl's a process. But in a moment, if I learned that she's okay through words on a screen and that things are really working out, there's a million other ways in which things are going very well that I didn't hear. And there's a million other ways that things aren't going well for that person. I get none of that. All that I got was this meaningless jargon. I don't even know this person. They're nice enough. So after that feeling of like, wow, this person's really making it, to the attendance, to the forthcoming, shame of like, oh, well, I haven't come to that place yet. Wow. To the, oh yeah, but that's right, I'm on my own track, doing things my way. Through all that, I left that space of that one-sided momentary conversation across the screen. I left that space with that feeling of emptiness, like, man, the richness of that human life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If I had been particularly moved to get to know that person, I would have done so, but I didn't. Instead, we're Facebook friends. It's like, cool. I wonder what you're like at your darkest. Wonder what you're like wonder what you were like in life. That moment when it came together and you had the place to live. And you had the conversation where you turned it down, the job that wasn't working. And went to do the thing that you love in a more flowing environment somewhere else. I was like, fuck. Made me aware of how small my world is in some ways. Right now it's growing, but there's that. But again, going back to Don Miguel Ruiz, when he said matter was dead and energy is life, looking at anybody in a still frame or through the moment, the 5-minute clip of them playing with their dog or them putting up memes or whatever. Oh, I just ran over a bed of discarded fake nails. That was chilling. Oh, clickety-clackety. Pull it together. I'm trying to land a point here. It's like the way that people look is not the way that they are. But you could have been born into any body, but the force animating you, well, that's another part of the equation, isn't it? So if you give identical twins almost extremely similar looking bodies, but the thing that happens, and they're humans, and they have different experiences, and they diverge from each other's complete or almost complete singularity of form. If you had these identical twins, they're the same gender, they wear the same clothes, and you go to a party, you find them, you'll notice this fact. The material of their bodies may be the same, and of their clothes. But whether or not they look the same in that realm, the words they choose, the behaviors, the mannerisms, the mates they choose, who's with them at the party, the people they chose to be with them at the party and invite to the party, all these things are going to be different. So if you just looked at them in a still frame, you might not be able to differ between the two of them if you saw their social media posts in the same clothes, doing the same sorts of things. But in real time, only in real time, when you're really there, even video doesn't quite do it. You kind of have to be there to witness the systemic-ness of another person. And a part of that is the dead material that's their skin and the structures of their body and such. And yeah, technically it's alive, but are the atoms and the chemicals alive? I say that they're a part of the conversation of life, but it's interesting. What is bone? It's basically really spongy concrete. But a human being grows a brain, a series of structures that can then, quote unquote, freely operate the bones and the skin around them and twitch and scratch and grow and all these things. What I'm saying is, like, it's interesting looking at people as a wake moving through the ocean rather than a still picture of a wave. The life inside of people. I've seen that. You pull back the veneer, you look beneath the structures. In my case, I look beneath how hot I find somebody to be, or how attractive they are, or how dynamic they are, how strong they are.